Round one and day one of the 2025 NBA draft is in the books. And on today's episode, we're going to talk about the winners and losers from round one. We're going to get to all that and more right after this.
Welcome to the number one place for your daily basketball news and analysis, NBA Central.
What's going on, basketball fans? Welcome to another episode of NBA Central, your number one spot for everything basketball related. I'm the host there, Hayes, but more importantly, you guys can follow the channel at NBA Central Pod on every social media platform we happen to be on. With that said, let's go to get into this content for today, y'all. Let's talk about the winners and losers of the NBA draft. The first one, of course, got to be the big winner, the Dallas Mavericks, getting the number one overall pick, drafting Cooper Flagg, not doing anything stupid, like trading Luka Doncic and not getting much back for it. But this is that, the Dallas Mavericks getting a fresh start with their franchise and getting Cooper Flagg there. Of course, you have Anthony Davis. You just re-signed Kyrie Irving, and you also re-signed Daniel Gafford, and now Cooper Flagg is walking to a situation with a lot more structure, some talent around it. He's not gonna, come in and not have any type of, talent. He's coming in the NBA champions on the team around him, and while some people have made the conversation and asked, like, hey, is this going to be best for Cooper? He's not going to be able to get a huge number of shots up or something like that. I think coming into structure is probably best for him. Having former NBA champions on your team and on that roster that can help mentor you, kind of do those type of things, could be really big for Cooper Flagg. Him learning to play within the framework of a whole team that's pretty well complete, right? And getting to fit in on that. So we'll see what ends up happening, but this puts the Dallas Mavericks in a position that they are basically recovering from one of the worst trades, most surprising trades in NBA history with getting Cooper Flagg. But the first loser of the draft night tonight had to be Ace Bailey. Ace Bailey, who, did not work out with certain teams. He's one of the first guys ever to not do that, not host a single private workout. And apparently one of the teams that he did not want to go to was the Utah Jazz. And the Utah Jazz looked at that and said, F it, we're taking him, right? It was people in his camp that reportedly preferred for him to go to the Wizards at number 6, even though he was a top 3 talent. And Danny Ainge and the Utah Jazz at number 5 said that, listen, they're going to take the talent there regardless. And keep in mind, the Utah Jazz are a team that is very committed to being bad until they get their star. And that means by any means necessary. And I guess by any means necessary, that also includes taking players that say they don't reportedly want to come to your team, but they got Ace Bailey in there. They got a top 3 talent in this draft, and they keep them from, they don't trade back or anything like that with any other teams. They take the talent there. And so while Ace Bailey's a loser because he didn't want to go to Utah, Utah ended up being a winner in this by getting the player that he's going to have to come in, he's going to have to perform, and we'll see what happens here. But Utah could end up being a winner here, but Ace Bailey, because of his preferences, definitely ends up being a loser here. One of the biggest winners that I have in this, right, and we'll get to some players that were drafted above him, though, is that the Memphis Grizzlies and Cedric Coward. I said this, you guys can go back when the Grizzlies traded Desmond Bane, and when they got the picks back that they got to, even though they had to make another trade up to move up 5 spots to get him, is that I said, well, Cedric Coward has to be on their board here. Cedric Coward is almost the perfect replacement for Desmond Bane, a player that can fit in, bring the defense, it still has the upside as a shooter, all that type of stuff. That is huge for this Grizzlies team that gave him up, got KCP back and things like that. But now, in getting a player like Cedric Coward here with this draft pick, and not to say that Cedric Coward's going to come right in and be exactly what Desmond Bane was. He's going to have to acclimate and things like that. But Cedric Coward said after he drafted, he's willing to put in the work. He's a worker. And so now that you got somebody who knocked down 30% of his threes as well, I tell you what, the profile that he has here at being a defensive stopper, the 6'6" frame, 7'2" wingspan, the Grizzlies were 11th in defensive efficiency last season, so Cedric Coward and the defense that he's bringing there could be absolutely huge for this team. I think that Cedric Coward is a really big player here and a big get for this team in the Memphis Grizzlies. I think they did damn good in this draft. Let's switch and go to the next loser, the New Orleans Pelicans in this draft. Listen, I like what the Pelicans did in some cases. You got Derek Queen in here, right? And I love Derek Queen. I think that Derek Queen could be a really tough player in this league when it all comes down to it, right? But you got him, and now what, right? Does he fit really with Zion? You have Eve Missy down there who played pretty good for you last year as an undersigned, and Queen is great. Make no mistake about it. But they better hope that this ends up being great, right? And so you got a 2026 pick as well to move up here, and hopefully you hope that that's going to end up working out for you. I love the talent in Queen, but the move to get this done is a little bit questionable when it comes down to that. But I think overall, we'll see what happens here. I do like what the Pelicans did overall in this draft, though. I think the Pelicans did really good overall in this draft, getting Derek Queen here. It's just that move to get him, a little bit of a question there, but we'll see how that ends up working out in the long run. Another team that I got to have down here as a winner is the Portland Trailblazers. The Philadelphia 76ers. I think the 76ers did great here. I think when they took VJ Edgecombe there, and while there's some question about McCain, Edgecombe, and Tyrese Maxey, I think that VJ Edgecombe is one of the best athletes in this draft. And so I think now with having Maxey, Paul George, what they have here, they got a guy in here who can be effective in playing a lot of different positions. The rebounds that he's able to average at 5.6, 3.2 assists, 2.1 steals. I think that this guy can fit in really nice next to ball-dominant players and fill in that role pretty well. Now, is he going to come off the bench? Is he going to start? That remains to be seen when it all comes down to it, but I like this guy a lot. I think he's going to really pay off for this team, and I think they did pretty damn good. Another loser, though, is Kasper Jokic. Now, you guys know I'm an Illinois fan. I actually host Locked On Illini, not Locked On Illini, Fighting Illini Central. But when you look at this guy who was considered a top 10 talent to fall down to number 20. Now, while I think that Kasper Jokic is a loser by falling as far as what he did, the Miami Heat could be a winner in this one. Being able to get Jokic here, I think that once he was on the board, I figured there was no way that they were going to let him go past them. So I think that, while it may be a little bit of a wake-up call for him on things that he needs to work for, I think that it could be motivate him in the best way to where it helps out the Miami Heat. You're getting a guy here who thought that he had top 10 talent, a lot of people thought he was going to go top 10. Now you get a point guard in here. And now you get to see how that looks going forward. In the Miami Heat, we know that they're really good at motivating players. They're really good at developing as well. I like a lot of what they did. Now, a team that can be looked at as a winner or a loser, just depending on how you look at what they did here, is the Brooklyn Nets. The Brooklyn Nets came into this one with 5 first-round picks. And all but everyone thought there was no way that they were going to keep all 5 of these picks. But they did. They kept all 5 of the picks when it came down to it. They selected Igor Dimin, Nolan Traore, Drake Powell, Ben Serif, and Danny Wolf. They drafted all 5 of those guys. And so if they end up working out, this end up being a very big win for you. Where I think it could end up being a loser is that if you did not take the opportunity to trade up in this draft and get a better talent overall than getting 5 pretty solid talents, I think that's what it comes down to. But, with the questions that they have in Cam Thomas and his future is going to be, I can understand there. You got Igor Dimin, who I think could be in a really nice backcourt mate with Cam Thomas. If you end up trading Cam Johnson as well, you got Drake Powell in there, Danny Wolf, potentially replace some of that. You still got Nick Claxton there, which I wonder what that future is going to look like. But the Brooklyn Nets have gotten a lot of players here. The question is now, as the Nets are still in a rebuild, how many of these players are going to be players that stick around? How many of these players are going to be one that is really good for this team and are players that you can build with? That's a question that the Brooklyn Nets are going to have to answer here. But hey, I'm never mad at a team taking as many bites at the apple as possible. And so depending on your view on the players that they got, you can view this as a winner or loser in this draft. But we'll see what happens when it comes down to that. Another team that I do think you can label as winners is the Atlanta Hawks. I think the Atlanta Hawks did pretty damn good in this draft when it came down to it, right? For a team that they traded their pick, but still ended up with Asa Nua, a player that some people had going in the lottery. Some people did have dropping in the 20s there. But I think Asa Nua, with what you already did as far as getting Kristaps Porzingis here, it's a really good move. Asa Nua, whether he ends up being a 4 or 5 at the next level, I could see him playing off Kristaps Porzingis. You give him some time to develop. You have Jalen Johnson down there. You have your number 1 overall pick from last year. You have, of course, Dyson Daniels and those guys down there. And so the Atlanta Hawks, who seem like, and I asked the question after the Porzingis trade, are they a legitimate contender in the Eastern Conference? They've now loaded up with a really versatile defensive player that has upsides of a 3-point shooter, and you get to see how that's going to turn out for him. So I think that that's a really nice pickup there for them, and I think they did really good in this draft for what they end up getting. Now, a team that I've gone back and forth on how to judge this, the Washington Wizards, right, who traded Jordan Poole, a couple of days ago, and that's all fine and dandy. And while it does feel like maybe they were hoping that they were going to be able to get a different player, they end up getting Trey Johnson here. Now, I like Trey Johnson's upside as a scorer in this draft. I think that he has tons of potential to be that, but Ace Bailey wanted to go to them. And because of that, of course, like you look at that as maybe a little bit of a loss there, but Trey Johnson, the 19 points per game, 2.7 threes, 39% shooting from three, 87% from the free throw line. Like, this is a guy who can outright score the basketball. But of course, you had your mind set on Ace Bailey, who they had penciled in as a potential franchise-changing talent. Now, can Trey Johnson be that? We'll end up seeing what happens when it comes down to that. But I think overall, like, they did really good here in getting Trey Johnson, but they had their sights set on higher. And because of that, you got to judge that in a way that you judge it, right? But overall, like, this was a exciting night. Not necessarily as many moves as people were thinking. Oh, wait, I missed out on one winner. And I got to give tons of credit to this team. The Phoenix Suns. The Phoenix Suns end up being a big winner in this draft. You trade for Mark Williams, which you needed a center in this draft. You get a center that's been in the league for a couple of years, right? You did that after the Kevin Durant trade, in which you got Dylan Brooks and you got Jalen Green back, young players. You get another young player in Mark Williams, who's been in the league for a few years, but is still very, very young. And then you turn around, you got him for the 29th pick, and another first in 2029, solid enough deal there. But then you turn around and use the number 10 pick acquired in the KD trade to get Kaman Malawak. Now, the thing is, when it comes down to it, you get Kaman to be a backup immediately, right? I don't think you're going to start these two guys together. You're not going to do a double big lineup, but you got a center that you kind of know what he's going to be now. And then you got Kaman here as your rookie to back him up, who's raw, who could be your center of the future. Keep in mind, the reason why I like this for the Phoenix Suns is that they were a team that reported that they still want to be able to try to win basketball games with Devin Booker. They want to put a team around Devin where he can still win, still compete. Not contend, but compete in the Western Conference. You get Mark Williams here. You draft Kaman Malawak in here. I love that for the Phoenix Suns. I think they did pretty damn good in this draft, if I do say so myself. I think they did really damn good. I got to give them the credit for what they were able to do. I think they did excellently in this draft, and it could have been a lot worse off, right? So you got to give credit for them in it as well, and you got to see how this is going to shape up for them. But I think the Phoenix Suns have really come in and accomplished a lot of what they wanted to accomplish in this draft. I think they've gotten a lot done that they had on their board to get done in this draft, and now we just got to see how it's going to play out for them. But overall, this first night of the draft was really fun. Not as many moves as a lot of people, myself included, thinking that it was going to be. But yeah, I think that this was a really, really solid draft when it came down to it. I think Dylan Harper went where he needed to go. Everybody kind of went where things made sense. There are a couple of picks where you're looking at a little bit questionable. Shout out to Danny Wolf for, the emotional moment that he shared with his brothers. But, overall, like, I think that this was a really good first night. Now we get to see what happens in night two. I'll be dropping a video tomorrow talking about the best players left on day two, so make sure you guys stay in tune with us for that. You can follow us at NBA Central Pod. You can send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns, NBA Central Show at gmail.com. And then lastly, if you want to leave a text message and our voicemail for the mailbag, the number to do so, 773-270-2799. We are the number one spot for everything basketball related, thanks to you guys. And like I like to end every episode on, I'll see you guys bright and early tomorrow morning. I'm not even going to think like probably tomorrow. No, it's me bright and early tomorrow morning. Love you guys. Peace, y'all.
This has been a presentation of the Break Media.